this computer. Hello, hello, Dave. So this is the first day of the 4-day AI challenge, create your own personalized AI assistant. So thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Colleen, for being here. We've got a few other attendees and they will be joining shortly. Let's crack on. And I'm going to share my slides and I'll go through what we'll be doing in the next few days. And before we get started, is there anything that you would like that's come up for you in the last few days that you would like me to kind of hone in on? Is there anything you can unmute, just put it in there in the chat if there's something that comes up for you, or you say, you know what, I just want to hear, but anything that for you, so I can make sure I'm gauging and I'm focusing on that as well as we go through this workshop, because it is making sure that you get what you get, from these 4 days. So Colleen, how about you? Is there anything you're thinking?
I know I took maybe 2 days of the last one, so I'm just looking to follow through and finish the AI assistant. And that will take some homework on me of, inputting the branding and the vision and the voice. And hopefully I should be good. So I think I'm on point for where we're headed.
Fantastic. Okay, so it's completion for you. Jessica, what about yourself? Is there anything you'd like me to kind of focus in on?
No, I'm just kind of excited to see where this goes and to learn more about it. And I think, like I told you the last time, I'm kind of a novice, but trying to, jump in and figure out how to use it.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you. Hey, we've got Kathy on. Hey, Kathy.
Hey, how are you?
Good to see you on. Yeah, so we're just starting. Is there anything that you would like us to kind of focus on as you were coming into this workshop to do this challenge? Is there anything you're thinking that's top of mind that you would like us to focus on?
Is that to me?
Yes, Kathy, yes.
I'm just here for it, Bally. I'm glad to be here. Everything you presented in the first one was great. So I'm just here to soak it all up. Nothing specific, just whatever you're serving, I'm eating.
Beautiful, beautiful, amazing. And so like I was saying to Colleen and I was saying to Jessica as well, Kathy, is that if things come up, then please bring them up and we can openly talk about them, and I can go away and find out things if things aren't working. Because with everything that's going on at the moment, it's changing a lot. We've got a new couple of features that have shown up in ChatGPT, which you'll hear about today. So without further ado, let's begin. And so I'll share my slides and hopefully you can see the slides. And yeah, so as we go through this, if there are any questions, please feel free to unmute or pop it in the chat. If I miss the chat, just feel free to unmute and ask me if there's something that's not clear as we go through what we're doing today. So welcome to 4-day, and this is the first day of the AI challenge, create your own personalized assistant. And today's the day, so we've got an hour together. So what's the purpose of this challenge? It's empowering us as leaders to learn more about AI and how it can enhance our voice, our style, and become more efficient. So this is hands-on learning. And so we'll be engaging in interactive activities together, and we'll be building our own customized AI assistant. So that's what we'll be working towards. So it won't happen the first day, of course, but we'll take those steps. And by day 4, which is Thursday, you have your assistant, and you've also got feedback on that as well. So yeah, so personal growth, tailor AI tools to enhance our own growth, but also support our clients. But I know for us here, it's about supporting those that we serve. So what does that mean? So for this challenge, now, given where we are in the space, you'll hear a little bit more about that. We don't need to know everything, right? Because it's evolving, and that's the beauty of learning, because we're like being here means that we're open to wanting to learn, right? So we've got that AI mindset, I call it. So there's no need to have prior experience in AI, although it's been going for a number of years, but like for us, we don't need to have that experience. And for whatever reason, we've got a couple of people who aren't here today. And so if you can't attend, then these sessions this week, I will record them and share them. Ideally, you want to be there for the sessions, because it makes it, in terms of learning, it makes it much more kind of, you know, you're getting what you're kind of asking about. Because when you go back to these recordings, you're like, okay, I had a question about that. When do I ask? And if you happen to miss a session, that's okay. You can watch the recording, and then we'll pick up on where we left off, of course, and I'll always recap. So how can I prepare for the challenge? Well, actually, what we'll do each day is I will share kind of what we'll be doing after each session, and do kind of demos and share kind of the customization, which I'll go through in a few moments. So preparing is really, if you miss a session, then please watch that, and then kind of be ready to kind of share how that went on, and if you've got questions, because as we build our own assistants as we move forward, you'll have other questions. So yeah, so what tools and software will I need? I'll go through this. We're going to be focusing on GPT, and I call it Chat GPT, because actually all the ones, the models like Claude, they're all chats, if you like. That's what they kind of are. But so GPT is the one we'll be looking at. So, and support during the challenge. Any questions, please feel free to reach out. If you've got any questions as you're doing this, I'm more than happy to kind of follow up, and we can also, maybe something that the others are asking or thinking about that maybe I haven't addressed. So that will be great if you're able to do that. So by the end of this week, you have access to your so you'll have obviously access to your AI tool. So my understanding is all of you have that already, which is great. We are going to be customizing our settings, and I'll go through what I mean by that in terms of customizing, and when it might be that we may actually turn this off, so we can kind of explore that as well. Because you might say, I know that Kathy, you and I spoke about this, like, well, when do I turn this customization or even the memory, right, area, which we may go on to today if we get time. By the end of this week, you'll have instructions on how to build your own AI assistant. So my wish is that after this session, you have many assistants. It's not that you just have like the one, but by the end of this week, you'll definitely have that one. And you're able to test your AI assistant too. So we want to be able to test it to ensure that it's doing the thing that it says on the tin, right? And you've got some feedback on your assistant, right? So does it work? What's it doing? Does it, like, have I given it the information I need to kind of get the outputs and have an idea of the next steps? Because the thing is, right, you do this and then you're like, okay, what do I do with it? Because the worst thing is to create this system and then you're not using it. So we'll kind of think about what's the next thing, having had this session together or these few days together. So today we're going to be covering what are LLMs. So LLMs referring to the acronym meaning large language models. We'll go over that just briefly, and we'll customize our settings. So I'll share how I customize my settings. So I'll be asking you to kind of spend possibly half an hour. You may have this already, kind of text that you will then input. You'll say, well, actually, I've got some of this. Now, all I need to do is to insert it in my settings. And you may be asking, like, how do I optimize those? So we'll be talking about what the best way to kind of do this, because there are two kind of things that you need to kind of think about when you're doing that. So test customization. So yeah, so once you've done that, you can then save it and then we can test it. And this could be done after this session. That's absolutely fine, because sometimes it's collecting that text that you're going to add to it and identify your own voice. So it might be a case of like, okay, what does that mean in terms of my voice, as in my own brand and who I'm serving? So by the end of this session today, you'll have the initial steps in customizing your GPT and supporting your journey, right? Leadership. So I believe that all of us are. A little bit about me. You've all met me, right? So my company is Leaderize, and it's helping to support leaders in bridging the gap. So there's always that learning curve as an educator, and my passion is by igniting change, realizing potential and shaping the future. And I believe that AI is definitely the way forward for us leaders here. So AI, the definition, AI or artificial intelligence is the capability of machines to perform tasks that typically require human intelligence, such tasks as like understanding, learning, and problem solving. And examples you already will have seen, and for years we've been kind of, or perhaps even using ourselves, Siri and Alexa. And so they can assist with everyday tasks. And so AI's role in business and leadership, how does that help us? Okay, that's all very well. We've got things like Siri and Alexa and, but what does that do for us? Actually, what it does is it enhances our own efficiency. AI can really improve our business efficiency, make us more profitable. We're able to automate routine tasks and data-driven insights. So we'll go into a little bit more of that as well. So McKinsey's report kind of define this as human integration. AI should complement human activities, helping us to build trust with stakeholders and supporting more informed decision making. So rather than replacing us, what it's doing is helping us amplify, and we're using it to complement rather than replace. And I really kind of I love this definition, because there's this thing of like, oh, we're going to be replaced. Well, it's going to always need us, right? And the people that we serve. So what we're going to be discussing is an area called generative AI, which is what we were talking about as we got started. And by definition, generative AI creates new content such as text, images, videos by learning existing data. Things like ChatGPT and the use of generative AI to assist in content creation and problem solving. So before I continue, I just have a quick question for you. And I know, and so I'll just stop there for a moment. I just have a very quick question. Jessica, before we came on, you mentioned that you're using it to build your logo and the design elements. So have a question. Kathy, how are you using generative AI, like GPT or any other models? How are you currently using it? So you're going to have to unmute yourself.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
I use it primarily with my real estate business, and I have it to, I do it more for writing things. I haven't tried to create any type of logos or anything like that, but I use it to generally write my listings. I'll have it to sort of clean up my tone on some emails I'm responding to, because I have a tendency to be very direct and right to the point. Even when people are dealing with me, I'd rather for people to just be, just straight with no, fluffing up. So depending on who I'm dealing with, I'll maybe get them to, I'll get AI to reply in a more gentle tone. So I use it for those type of things. That's pretty much the way I've used it. I get it to construct maybe advertisements, things like that.
Fantastic. So it's mainly text at the moment, right?
Mainly text, no pictures. I was very interested in that when you were talking about that. I haven't used it for anything like that.
Okay, so yes, sort of creating, so mainly text, mainly emails, responding to individuals, using their tone, and also using it for advertising. So this is amazing. There's a lot there. So yeah, we've got so I can come up with a couple of other suggestions that might help as we go through this week. Colleen, yourself, I know Jessica shared earlier, how are you using it?
I'm kind of entry level, but the same mind's text at this point. I'm hopefully going to use it to polish up writing and kind of create emails for website, and then moving forward, hopefully the sky's the limit as we plan content.
Beautiful. Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. Jessica, did you want to add anything to that? Is there anything that stands out for you?
Yeah, I mean, I just used it for helping me write some essays to like professionalize it and just go over it a little bit. And then also I had tried to do some content creation.
Okay. Yeah. So more kind of essays. Were they academic essays? Were they?
Just to kind of help, yeah, essentially.
Academic essays. Okay. All right, great. So we've got quite a few there, sort of examples, content creation, we've got emails, we've got advertising, we've got essay writing, kind of academic essay writing. So they're very different genres, tone, and Kathy raised something really interesting about how we've got a different voice and how you're direct and you're noticing that and then and responding to others in a way that you know, they might want that message sits better with them because that's how they convey their message, right? So making sure the message lands rather than being very kind of direct. So I really thank you for sharing that. That's great. Okay, so let me continue because we'll go through some of these points here. And so we were just going through this sort of generative AI, and we've got like ChatGPT is the one, right, that most of us have been using. And this is an example of what it does, right? It's a generative AI tool, right? Because that's what it is, right? And what we're going to be doing is how can we optimize and how can we use this tool, which is so powerful. I mean, it's incredible what it does and how it can support us. So this is kind of where the kind of land, if you like, sort of like the kind of area of AI is in terms of kind of from an academic stance, if you like, kind of this big kind of area of artificial intelligence. We've got kind of this science, engineering, and this, you know, kind of field of like human behavior and looks at reasoning. Then we've got machine learning and how it breaks through kind of, you know, in achieving AI, machine learning, algorithms, predictions, and processing data and that type of thing. We've got the deep learning. We've got these kind of deep learning use of neural networks inspired by neurons interact in the human brain. So we kind of like, it's so complex. And what generative AI does is it's a branch of deep learning that uses exceptionally large neural network called large language models. And it uses billions of neurons. So what's really powerful is like how many, like everything we can possibly imagine, but it uses these, like it's predicting, right? So it predicts these patterns, if you like, right? So and so when we spoke a couple of days ago, last week, we were talking about kind of that predicting or prompting. But you can imagine that when we're creating things like text, videos, images, they're all examples of generative AI. So it means that no longer is it in the hands of these you know, companies that would have those investments. We as users have the kind of like, we've got this tool at our disposal to use it for our own kind of serving our own clients, customers, communicating, enhancing our own communication style. There's so much more, and building content that we may have used or asked other people to support us with. We can still obviously do that, but you know, it saves time. We can do it ourselves, and we can prompt it and teach the model how we want it to behave and respond. So large language models exist, things like we've got Gemini, we've got OpenAI, which is ChatGPT, and we've got Claude. There's so many more. And some of these we've already kind of spoken about last week, but you know, this is huge. But the reason I would say stick with models that are supported, it means that there is that support, and we've got, you know, we're logging into these systems as opposed to open source where it may not be as secure. So they are still good, but you know, stick to these ones. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to start. So the steps that we'll be taking today is we'll be logging into our GPT, and I'll show you what we'll be doing in a moment. I'll give you a demo, and we'll go through customizing the instructions on our settings. so that the model itself, the model that we're using, understands us, so that it kind of knows who we are and the people that we serve. And so we're kind of training the model. Now, it will pick up what you're doing anyway through the memory setting, but by doing this, we can really we can focus in, because if we don't do that, what happens is we get kind of the chat GPT-ish responses. And I mean, it's nothing worse than kind of sounding very robotic and not like reflecting your voice, which is the worst case scenario. So some of the questions that, when we're thinking about creating or customizing our model, we want to be thinking about stuff like how casual, how formal, how, do I want my chat GPT to be? Do I want my responses, in other words, do I want my outputs being long or short? And, kind of, would you want really lengthy responses? Do you want kind of succinct? From what Kathy's saying, she probably wants very clear, like no fluffiness, just give me the response, right? And how do you want to be addressed, right? That might be something to think about too. And should GPT or chat GPT have opinions on topics or remain neutral? Remember, there are going to be, and this is something to be mindful of, there's always going to be some biases. And so what we want to do is, as experts, because the beauty in this is being knowledge and being, I've got to turn this off, sorry. Okay, sorry. Oh. Oh my goodness. Sorry about this. I can't turn this off. Okay, it's gone on couldn't turn it off on my phone. So should chat GPT have opinions on topics or remain neutral? So I would say you might want it to. You might be interested in exploring that, but on the whole, I would kind of, I'd kind of be careful how we frame this in kind of like getting those responses. So I'm going to show you what I did. And before I do that, I'll just double check that, let me just double check that if you've done that already. So apologies for the for that. I'm just going to make sure. That's my niece trying to connect with me. I'm just going to, so it's all good. Has anyone here started or attempted to put the customization, done the settings there for themselves? Not yet. Okay. So no. Okay. So let me share my screen and hopefully that will get you thinking how you want your GPT to respond. So I'm going to go through the steps, and by going through the steps, hopefully that will help you as you go through customizing and creating that setup. So there's going to be, like I said, 2 layers to this. And so I am just going to, let me just double check. Let me get this really short, make sure I got my this page up, the GPT page. And then as I'm showing it that, okay. So I'll make this bigger. Okay. So what we're going to be doing is when you go on to your actual page itself, so I'm going to go on the left-hand side where I've got my face there, and then I'm going to click on that. So once I've clicked onto that part here, by the way, because I've gone straight into this, I know we had that initial conversation. So we're using the paid version of ChatGPT. So for those people who watch this recording I know we've got a couple of people who will be joining us tomorrow, just to kind of let you know that we are looking at the paid version of ChatGPT, and we're looking at, this is why 4 is showing up. It's the one that's $20 a month. And so that's where we are in terms of customizing, and we're going to be doing that. So we've gone on to this where you've got my face here. You might just have sort of like a circle, possibly with your initials on. And so we're going to be going into this bit here. So we click on customization. So we have in here, we can customize our settings. So the actual model understands that who you are. So what you want to be doing, and in fact, you could get your GPT to help you do this if you want. You could also look at, if you've got a website, you could look at taking, you know, your about you on your website, and you could add that into here. Now you've got 1,500 words that you can add. Now, I would really hone in on things like your philosophy, things like perhaps even transformation, your values, because that will help the model understand more about you. So I've kind of put information in here about my coaching and having that kind of holistic transformation. And I've also added a little bit like, so where am I doing my research? How am I getting information? And so and you can amend this, by the way, later on, but just to get started and to test it, you could add your kind of bio, something about you as well. It might not just be about work. It could be your hobbies you could add in there. I've seen kind of people put in their families, and, you know, because that says a lot about you. It's so it understands. So when we're thinking of the tool itself, we're thinking about how it will understand us when it kind of produces these outputs. And then one thing I really like is this bit here. So I'm going to share this with you so you can add this into your customization there. And I'll go through kind of some of the steps that I feel that help. Is that you know, we've got this bit about ourselves, but then this bit is I kind of tell or inform the GPT how to best respond. So step to ensure you get it right. So show your thought and reasoning. Now, and you might say, what do you mean you like get it to do the thinking? And I had a discussion with someone the other day, and they, you know, they would say, well, it can't think, it's not human. Well, it can, because it's got billions of neurons that it's tapping into. This latent space is going into that. And so all the stuff that, you know, the people are doing, it's able to go through that and beyond what humans can actually, like an individual can possibly do. And I'm not saying it's the only way, but it's immense. But I still want, before it produces a response, I still want it to give me the kind of steps, the thought process, and its reasoning. And the reasoning I want it to do in a monologue, and like it's talking to me kind of in, you know, that way. It's like we're having a, like it's just kind of telling me what I'm asking it to do something, it's kind of responding. So we use this, this is kind of like the coding, but I'll share this with you. And then it kind of shows up in monologue and monologue tags, if you like, before responding. So in other words, it's producing that. And I found that to be really helpful. And you'll notice a slight difference in it responding, because it will be like, okay, these are the thoughts. Responses are direct, so Kathy will like this, to the point and not over elaborated. So I just want the outputs to be to the point. Suits my style too, Kathy, and it's direct. So I'm kind of like, don't need the fluffy stuff, right? As you say, voice. So there's something in kind of programming terms that this model understands. It's something called perplexity and burstiness. And I want it to sound as human-like as possible. We know it's not human, but it's kind of got capabilities which are kind of amazing. But at the end of the day, it's still a model, and I need to train it. And then I put self-reference, no AI intro or self-identification needed ever. It's not necessary. Clarity, ask questions if needed to help reasoning better. I found that to be really helpful, because I don't want it to just fill in the gaps. I want it to kind of ask me before it kind of responds. And if it doesn't know, I need it to ask me, because otherwise it would just kind of fill the gaps and it may not be relevant, and it doesn't kind of fulfill that. So when interacting with my GPT assistants, expect responses that are insightful, helpful, and aligned. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this and I'll give this to you. So for those who are not here, I will email it across to you. Just let me know and I'll share that with you now. So I'll put it in the chat. But if you need me to email it to you as well, let me know. I've just put it in there, and you can amend it. You can amend it. You know, you still have more words to play with, and it does pick up the text format in this way. And I just found the monologue tags to be really helpful as I'm doing this. Okay, so you can do it. So you could, you know, just put it in a document, and maybe you want to the self-reference. You may kind of ask it to you know, you may want to amend that. But yeah, we can test it out tomorrow to see, because those would be the kind of first things I would say for sure to do. Now, before we go on, I just want to double check in terms of the customization. Have you got like a bio or somewhere where that, you know, have you got that, or would you want ChatGPT to do that for you? Have you got something you could lift and already put that in the customization? Let me start with Kathy. Kathy, have you got, I'm sure, you know, have you got something you could kind of cut and paste? Oh, you need to unmute, beg your pardon. Oh, you know, let me see if I can unmute you 1 second.
I got it. Sorry about that.
Okay, no worries.
I was trying to cut and paste and do all that at the same time. I do have a bio that I have a couple of bios that I use. I use one for like when I have speaking engagements, and then I have my real estate bio that I, you know, just use if I'm dealing with new clients or advertising. So yeah, I can cut and paste that, but I think I want to do something that encompasses all that I do. Or do you suggest having like separate ones?
No, you can, because we can add, for your assistants, we can have separate ones, but for your kind of over, you know, like Kathy, this, you know, place, and, you know, when you're showing up in this world, you know, like that is general you as an individual. So you could have, like, you know, you could add the family, you know, we talked about kind of values, family, kind of, because that all kind of the model understands, like that means, you know, having that information helps. So yeah, you could ask the GPT to tidy that up for you if you want. You could say, this is the, you know, I'm using it for my customization settings. You know, I've got 1,500 words. This is me. You know, help me tidy this up. And if you're happy with that, you can then add that in. And if you're not, you can say, you know what, that's not good enough. Like, please.
Great idea.
You could ask it to do that. So that might help. And it helps speed us, you know, it helps the process, speeding things up, because with having these models, we'd never be stuck ever. Like,
I love it.
We should never get a point where we're like, I don't know, like, because the whole model, the whole idea is that we have this to help us kind of be unstuck every time. Like, okay, I don't know what to put, so we can ask it and say, okay. But yeah, and try that. So hopefully, so you've got that. That's fantastic. Colleen, I understand you do as well, right?
I fed it some information off my website about me, kind of area. So yes, I have a starting point.
Fantastic. So yeah, it could be, because I put my coaching in there, I might kind of go back and even amend that possibly later on. I've stuck to my work, because predominantly what I'm using it for is work. So that's what I found, that I'm using it for work. So in case for Jessica, perhaps Jessica, you're using it for both study and your work, you might be doing it kind of like that, you know, that's something we're all learning, by the way. So it might be that if you're doing kind of some of the academics, you're doing some learning there, you might add that.
It was all stuff relating to coaching. So
okay. It's all kind of, yeah, so it's all related to this field of kind of coaching, as we've been speaking about. Absolutely. And by the way, you can turn the settings off. So if you, like, there are times when you might be writing or you're creating content. So, you know, might be like an event, family event, right? You could just turn it off. So that's the thing, because I would always say that if you then decide that, you know, you don't want it, you simply turn it off, and then it kind of, we would just do it here where we would just go, sorry, but just go back. customized settings, and we would just kind of toggle and then enable new chats, and this will turn it off. And now, for example, if you were working with a client who, you know, it wasn't a coaching client or someone that you were serving, then it wouldn't help really to have it on. So that's something that you could just do. I keep it on, but yeah, so I can do it that way. Just it just helps me on day to day. But if I'm doing an event and it was unrelated to coaching, I would just turn that off. In terms of other things just to be mindful of is when you go into, so we've got these different sort of GPTs, right? Now we've got this new version, which is the 01 preview. And now this is something new. So I always like look at something new that's happening, and I'll always point that out. And what I've so I've not explored with this, so maybe someone else has. I'm still kind of exploring with kind of how this does more advanced reasoning, which is incredible, because GPT-4 does, I mean, it does complex tasks. It does, it does the reasoning. It doesn't do emergent thinking as well. None of them really do as well, but yeah, we've got so you can see where it's going. It's kind of like these are the differences. So if you're using it on your mobile, minis came about because the mobile kind of people wanted to use it on their phones. But, I tend to use it on my screen. Now, what we're going to be doing the next few days is we're going to be creating some of these assistants. So now, like when you go into here, you have all these GPTs, and like a year and a half ago when OpenAI announced them, when actually they started back in 2022, at the end of 2022, but 2023 in January is when people started hearing about like GPT, and then by February, March, most people already had the earlier version. So it just kind of took off really quickly. At that point, there were very few GPTs, and I remember kind of going on and there was like 2 or 3, a handful. Now we've got many more, right? And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating our own GPT, okay, in the next few days. And so what I've actually managed to do is create quite a few assistants to do some of the tasks that I found really helpful. So I use it for, these are the ones I use it for. We're going to go into a little bit of these, like I've been building on these and adding to these as well. And so these are in a private area, which they're not made publicly available, like say some of these are. And so they become the kind of my assistants, if you like, that support my writing, support if I'm doing mentoring, or if I'm doing creating prompts, that I can then evoke these. And I'll show you how to use these in the next few days, okay? And the one that we'll be kind of focusing on is this Biz AI assistant a little bit more. And when I kind of share these with you, I know that I did this before, but when I share this with you, I'm going to mention how to save this, because I know that was one of the questions that came up. We've got to open it and then put it in the sidebar, but I'll show you how to do that when we come to creating those. So that's basically what we'll be doing, is that you will have at least like one by the end. Yeah. And once you know how to do it once, you'll be able to kind of building on this, and we'll look at how to do that in terms of what kind of files to upload, how to organize that in the settings. So that's kind of something that we'll be doing. So have a think in the next few days, like even in fact, no, maybe today or tomorrow morning when you can, is have a think, what would you like your assistant to do for you? What would you like your assistant to do for you? And then we can start thinking about how that's going to support you, as in you've seen a few examples there. What would you like your assistant to do? And somebody said to me, I want my assistant to do everything. I'm like, can you like, you just it's serious, like, okay, you can see that you got a writing assistant, I've got a copywriter, I've got someone that does this, let's give them tasks. You wouldn't, I mean, you want to ask someone to do everything. Maybe people do ask their interns to do everything. Like, I know, I've done that. Like, okay, go and do this, go and do all the errands. Like, no, and like, what am I supposed to be doing? What's my thing? So that's how I see it. It's like, what do I want my assistant to do so I can optimize it? And because I need to train the model to produce those outputs. So you will have a lot, like, I know that you'll have this. You'll be like, okay, do I? But you'll have a lot of knowledge in your, like, the files that you have, that you can create an assistant that we can evoke when we're having conversations, or we're using it to build content, write emails, and we can kind of like, we can use that in supporting us and helping us kind of write, whether it's emails, responding to messages, or even creating ads. So one thing that so in terms of doing this, can I just double check, is everyone okay with the setup first before I continue with the customization? Do you have any questions regarding that before I move on? No, is it clear? Yep. Okay.
Crystal.
Okay, perfect. Good. That's like, okay, so that's something that we'll of course be working on today, and then we'll continue with, thinking about these questions. And by the way, I will share these slides. I will share the recording and the slides so that you've got them, right? So it makes it easier. Like, okay, what was she talking about? So so getting started with prompt templates. Oh, by the way, I said that I would share something new every time, right? So in your GPT, if you haven't seen this, right, there's something new, and each day, possibly if I can, every time I do this, I always go back and say, what's something new that you may not have seen that's appearing in that space, which I call my kind of GPT environment. And there's something that's just appeared. I don't know if you've seen this, and I always like I said, highlight something new. There's something called GPT prompt templates by keywords everywhere. So I don't know if this has shown up on when you've logged in today, right? So there's something else to explore, but for the purpose of the challenge, we're going to be doing the customization. But if this pops up, then it might be worth looking at anyway, because there are different topics in that in that area which I came across today. So it's all new, okay? And I know that they are working behind the scenes to bring this to us for sure, because what they've done is they've noticed that people need support with templates and prompts. So they've made it really, they've made it really easy to look at reading. So if you're doing like an academic paper, Jessica, or you're doing, you had like like a journal article that you're doing for any of the work that you're doing coaching related, then you can actually summarize that, and you can use the URL code, which I'll go into. I'll probably have to touch on that tomorrow, but it makes it so much easier. And this is a new feature. I just want to double check that you've seen it on your GPT on when you've logged in. So maybe you can, when you log in, if you're seeing something called keywords, it's called everywhere with templates on the actual on your GPT. No, it's not appearing.
Let's see.
If you're not seeing it, not to worry, because it might. I'm just going to see if I've got it back on mine, because it was showing up today. Oh wow, it's gone. Okay. I actually put a post out today as well about it. Oh yeah. So okay. So here it is. So I'll show you where it is if you haven't seen it, because it's a case of clicking on. So when you go into templates, this K button at the bottom, we have something called K chat. It's called ChatGPT prompt templates by keywords everywhere. And what it does is they're going to they'll put in different activities for sure, and they will be adding much more to this. So at the moment, they've got these categories here. I know this is taking us away from the setup for our system, but it's still worth knowing these as we build on these, and we've got these subcategories, and you might go, okay, so for example, if I wanted to do a productivity, that was the one I was looking at earlier. Let me see, right. I may use summarization, and then I might put a template, but look at this. I can actually add the URL code straight in. I can paste the URL code in here, and I tested it earlier with a research paper, and then I could add that in there, and it could produce a text, let's say something like 500 words. So it's something new, and I could go into possibly later on when we go into maybe prompting in a week again, like how can I use it, how can I optimize this, and how will it help me. But it might be worth experimenting, because I know, Colleen, you've done the setup. So as you've done the setup, it might be something to still like experiment with, and we can't get it wrong. I always say that it's like, just can't get it wrong. We can always have a look at it and test that out. Okay, so it is something new, but it does speed up kind of like the process that we're going through in terms of kind of getting a URL. So like summarizing a paper, a lengthy paper which we've read, but you just want a summary of that. So this is something that's new. So if you do a lot of reading, or or even like getting bullet points, it's something that's making it easier. Hello. Okay, so hi. So let's continue. Okay, and please stop me if you've got questions around what we were just saying. So yeah, so that was something new, Colleen, because I know that you've done the kind of the first bit of this, so it's great to kind of look at some of these topics. The ones that I was thinking about as and knowing what you're currently doing is productivity and marketing. And you may choose a template, like I was just pointing out, like say summary. You might have like a specific task. You might say summarize a text, or extract, some of those key terms, and read. Some templates come with tips, so check the descriptions, and then experiment, because that's the fun bit. That's the passion that I've had. Is really just experimenting. But yeah, I know sometimes it can be a little bit frustrating because we don't get what we want in terms of the outputs. So this is where we kind of modify and check what the outputs, what can I do to get the thing that I want it to do. Text about you. So the task is get the text ready about you to add to your customization. So you've seen an example, and so you've got either whether it's from your website, or whether you've already got it in writing, or whether it's a case of using it from several other areas that you can then get it to summarize for you, and like shorten it possibly. Remember, you have 1,500 words for both of those sections. The second section I've added, but by all means you can ask, and we can expand on that as well. So just as a recap, so today's steps are, you want to start customizing your settings. That's going to be number one. Okay, and then the next thing is, what is the GPT that you'd like, or the assistant you'd like to create, that's going to help you move forward, and have a think about what that might be. Okay, and thank you. That's before we kind of stop, I'm just going to see if you've got any questions before we finish, so that by tomorrow that we're ready. You've got the settings. Now we're moving on to day 2, which we'll be talking a little bit of like what those assistants, the knowledge that we can feed it and how we're going to be going about doing that. In fact, we could probably get this done in the next couple of days. By Wednesday, you could already have your assistant and we could be testing it out by day 4. Because that's kind of, maybe we'll speed it up, right? Questions for me, have you got any questions? Anything that stands out? Or feedback? Was it helpful? Kathy, if you wanna, I know you're still muted.
It was awesome.
Is that helpful? Yeah, fantastic. If you got questions or the setup, please let me know. That would be great to kind of hear if you're like, okay. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to test it. So as soon as you've done it, save the chat, like save it, and then just kind of you can just obviously you can refresh the page, but then test it out and see. And the other way you can do it, which is really interesting, right? So, you can have 2 tabs and you can have GPT opening one tab and the other one. You can customize one and leave the other one. And the one that you haven't touched, you can see the difference in the response, which is actually really like, you can have 2 like screens up. And sometimes between them, when I'm doing different things, I may have 2, because remember they're separate chats, if you like, if that makes sense. But yeah, so we may not have saved it at that point in the old version, so you could test it out that way. It might be something just to kind of see, is it doing the thing that I've just fed it to do?
Excited.
Yeah, okay, fantastic. And then the last point I just wanted to say was, let's do the thing that we talked about last week. Colleen wasn't here, so I'm just going to mention it. Colleen, if you go into your GPT and then go into your, let's come out of here, the settings, where we go into settings. We did this last week, but I want to highlight this for this challenge. And if you go into the personalization area, what you might want to do, what you're going to notice is that when you go into your memory, you're going to see what you've been doing the last few days. It's the memory section stays there, something like 30 days. That's what I understand. But you may want to clear that. And times you could even turn that off, right? So you could talk, should work, right? Why is that working for me? If I go on, no, that's not what I want. Stop. Should just, all right, that's it. So mine was actually off, right? Don't know why it's not doing it. Yeah, there it is. I need to move my cursor away. So yeah, so clear the history. And you can actually see the conversations that have been happening. So again, that's something that we didn't talk about a couple of weeks ago, Colleen. So that's something definitely, if you go in and you can see the latest chat. So the model will start knowing you anyway. But there are times when we don't want it to kind of have any of the former biases that we've gone with. So we want a clean slate. It might be a case you delete it. I've started deleting it much more now, because I'm aware that's a new feature in that memory and I don't want it to kind of impact things I'm doing, because I just don't want it to kind of have that. So yeah, something to think about as you're kind of putting this and you're building your own systems, because that can have those earlier informed kind of memories. I always see it's like different rooms and somebody hears that conversation. It's a bit like eavesdropping. Like, no, you don't know this information. You have no knowledge of it. Okay. So yeah, we've come to the hour. I've just, thank you so very much. Have you, before we continue, for tomorrow, is there anything you want to say, or just like thank you to you all for being here, and I'm excited to see how you build your AI assistants in the next assistant. You may have 2, Colleen.
Thank you, Bailey. I appreciate it. And my son was saying hi, but now he's gone.
Oh, hi.
He's under the table. He just slid. But thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Jessica.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. I'm excited about tomorrow. And I can't remember, Jessica, you're on tomorrow, right, with us? Is it tomorrow? You're not on tomorrow.
No, I have a work meeting. I'm gonna try, but I probably won't be able to.
Okay, so shall we do it this way? Then let me know that you've done your customization. It kind of keeps us all kind of moving in the same direction. And that would be great because it's like, yes, we've all done it, which is always exciting. Okay, fantastic. So yeah, that's the task for tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a great
Bye,
day.
ladies.
Bye now. Bye.
Bye.